Thank you for tuning in to the Toledo Track and Trail Podcast, where co-hosts Matt Bucher and Marty Wheeler interview motocross and off-road racing and riding icons to capture their stories and experiences for you. So buckle up those helmets, grab a handful of throttle, and get ready to listen to the Toledo Track and Trail Podcast. Before we get started with tonight's podcast, please make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring that bell. That way you stay up to date with all of our new episodes.
I want to thank my family for all their hard work, our staff, and most importantly, I want to thank our fans and riders. Please visit mxexpress.net.
We also want to show some love for a local nonprofit off-road club, the Toledo Trail Riders, and visit their website at toledotrailriders.org.
Matt, aren't we forgetting one?
Yes, please visit paulschlegelmovie.com to see how you can help Paul get his stories told in a documentary film for the whole world to enjoy forever.
I think we're done.
Okay, Marty, let's get after it. Now, it's on to the episode.
Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us. This is Season 2, Episode 2 of the Toledo Track and Trail Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Bucher, joined by my co-host, Marty, the Renaissance Man Wheeler. If you happen to be watching us on YouTube, please don't forget to subscribe and give us a comment there. You know, a tactful comment, right, Marty?
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
I like Husqvarnas.
Yeah. If you have any questions, comments, or show ideas, you can contact us at Toledo Track and Trail at gmail.com. Today, we are honored to be joined in studio by, well, most of us in studio, by the owner and family member of the Griffin Hines Farm Blues Club in Swanton, Ohio, Mr. Steve Coleman. And we're also joined by, to my right, your left, by Mr. George Damasco with MPM Wealth Advisors.
How you doing?
George is a local native who lives within probably 200 to 300 yards from Hines Farm.
Yeah,
there. Yeah,
pretty close.
Yeah. I've mapped it out online too. But anyway, welcome guys to the Toledo Track and Trail Podcast. Just to give you guys, the audience, some background information. So Steve and George are the primary landowners that we use for the Fallen Timbers race, hare scramble race with the Toledo Trail Riders. And this year was a little bit different. Because of the coronavirus and scheduling, we did a music fest and motorcycle rodeo out there. But Steve and George have become more than just landowners. They become really close friends to us and real big supporters of the Toledo Trail Riders Club. And this is our second time we've had them on the podcast.
Take 2 on season 2.
Take 2.
Yeah, Take 2, Season 2.
So the
Season
first
2,
time.
Episode 2, Take 2.
Yeah.
Exactly. So the first time we tried this, we had a beautiful backdrop. We did it in the studio there at Hines Farm, and we had some technical difficulties. Again, Marty and I are still kind of learning through all this, and it came out beautiful. The video was beautiful.
It was just part of that silent movie error.
Yes, like back in the 20s.
That's right.
You could only see it, but you didn't hear anything.
You know what? We could have done that. We should have had somebody just do the captions at the bottom, and we said this is old school.
We could still do that. I think.
There you go.
I think I still have the footage, but anyway, to kind of start off here, kind of where this, I really want to kind of talk about the relationship and the networking ability of our town and in the group of us here, because without the 4 of us in the room, each representing something different, really that race would not even be possible, in all seriousness. So
Very true.
I kind of want to start with a little bit kind of talking, because I'd originally started talking to you guys in about the fall of 2016. And I had originally got connected to George through his wife, Bree, and went to high school with her, real good friend. And, and again, they just live around the corner from Hines Farm. Griffin Hines Farm. Sorry, Steve.
Yeah.
And
Thanks, guys.
how about we say GHF? There we go. So I called Bree and talked to George and really started developing a relationship and kind of pitched the idea to, about doing a race out there. And then in the meantime, through another friend, Aaron Maston, talked to you, Steve, and met with you out there at the bar. So we'll kind of start with that. And also I want to talk about Marty, because Marty was really the primary with the other landowners that we have there at the race. Really, without Marty kind of having some connections and conversations. Really, that was like the missing link to be able to pull something off and to be able to capture all those landowners together. Excuse me. Sorry, George. And to be able to pull all that off together. So, Steve, what was your first reaction to hearing about pulling off a race out there with people you never even heard about before?
Honestly, I mean, it was a little scary, but it was amazing at the same time because, as you guys know, especially back then, the farm was not really running at all. And we needed to do something at that time to try to breathe some type of life into the place. I mean, it was a great place at the time as far as being there, but it was not being utilized for anything, as you guys remember. And, I mean, it really needed it. It was, like I said, I was a little hesitant at first, but talking to Aaron and then, I already had met George before, and then meeting you guys and everything else, you guys really brought it together. You really did, because and I had said this before when we did this before, but I believe that a lot of the things that have happened with the farm from then till now would not have occurred if it had not been for the races and breathing new life back into the business.
Great. That's good to hear. And we always appreciate you, appreciating us for breathing the life. And that was not honestly, that was not our intention.
Well, darn it, you did it anyway.
Yeah.
Sorry.
If that was a kind of a
byproduct,
a bonus of doing that, then that's great. And I remember as a kid and like kind of living around the area, I remember a buddy and I were driving by one time and he's like, "That's a world-renowned blues place," driving by the farm. And I'm like, okay, yeah, right. Well, I looked it up and it is. And so, Steve, talk about some of what is the primary function of Griffin Hines Farm? Tell us in maybe a few sentences what the history of it, maybe some of the great guests that you guys have had there.
Well, originally it was Hines Farm, and like you said earlier, it was Hines Farm. It started back in 1939 or somewhere right there about. And the original family, Sonny and Sarah Hines, essentially created a party spot. They called it the basement, where they started out of their actual basement of their house, not the building that's there now. And they did something that was pretty unique, especially for the time frame. They invited anybody and everybody to come out there and actually hang out to party. You can think about the era. Sonny Hines used to always tell people they had to drop their weapons at the door, and they could come in, have a good time, drink, dance, and whatever else it was that they were doing. In 1949 or right around that, they built the, which I still pretty much call that world renowned, but the juke joint that's in the back of the building. And then in around 56, 57, they built the building that currently stands there in the front. I mean, they had anybody and everybody there. Everybody's played there for the most part that you can think of. I mean, the OJs, Sam Cooke, Otis Redding. We just found the information for Aretha Franklin, who's been there before. I mean, there's so many greats that have played there. It's amazing. That used to be Chicago Pikeway, which is Route 295 now. Before the Port Authority expanded across 295 and split it up there by Airport Highway, it used to be what they called the Chitlin Circuit, and people would drive all the way from the south or from up north, Chicago and all that. And Hines Farm at the time was a natural stop. And the way that they built the place out, especially after they built the actual structure of the building, is they designed it so that people could be out there, they could space out, they could spread out as far as they wanted to. They had racing. The bands could stay upstairs at the place. I mean, there was pretty much at that time in that era nothing that you couldn't achieve as far as having fun and all day, all night, right there in one location. So it made it a prime place. The thing that changed a lot of things for history for that place is the invention of the jukebox, people not wanting to listen to live music anymore, which the farm was known for. And also, like I said, when the Port Authority kind of split the land right there, and people couldn't find their way to the building. And if you think back, that was before GPS and all the things that we have now, maps and all that kind of stuff. So it caused the business to actually fold and shut down. And my dad was the one who purchased the building. He used to go there as a kid. He purchased the place in 78, opened it up in 81. And he ran that all the way until he passed in 2013. One thing that he did, though, through his time frame, is he really only opened the place up maybe once or twice a month, and he kept it almost seasonal. He wanted to keep it as a gem, kind of a hidden gem. So a lot of things were lost as far as what people, they knew whether it was open, was it not open, all those kind of things. I know I'm going long here, guys, but
you're doing just fine.
I mean, there's a lot of history and a lot of things that go along with that place. So, Matt, when you said when one of your friends said that's a world-renowned blues place, and you said, yeah, right, that's normally the popular opinion. And that's what my dad, I think, was looking for at one point, was to kind of keep it out of the main light and just, kind of keep it as a private gem. And a lot of the memories and things that he had as a kid when the place really was hopping, so to speak, he wanted to keep those private. And, so, I mean, but it's a great place. It's a great place to go to. It's a great place to be, and it has a lot of history.
Well, I think I think for me, when I step into that bar, it really feels like you're stepping back in time. It's kind of amazing. And I don't know why. It's just the feeling you kind of get. Like you see the pictures on the wall, and there's B.B. King and some of the greats, and you just think, wow, they've been here, played here, and you just start to picture of what it would have been like to see that back in that era. And in Marty, I think you were going to ask a question.
Well, I was just going to say, for me, what I caught my eye was, I really didn't, when I come in around 2000, 2001, so I really didn't know the history of that. But what caught my eye was racing.
Yes.
The sign says racing, So the Heinz Farm, the hare scrambles there was not the first part of racing you guys ever had. I've seen some wild pictures of motorcycle racing and I guess truck pulling and mud bog. I guess there was all kinds of stuff there. So the hare scrambles wasn't really the first racing going on. It has a history of racing.
No, not at all. I mean, back then and back in the day, they raced everything and anything. I mean, they raced cars, they raced trucks, they raced horses. They even, from some parts of the history, they would on foot just race down the drag track. They did anything and everything to keep that stuff going. They had a beautiful grandstand that was out there. They used to serve people food and everything out there. I even have pictures that were never released to the public where they had thousands upon thousands of people filling that entire field area out there, standing room only.
Wow.
But they literally raced anything and everything.
And they came up from the south too, right? Wasn't that true? Just for that race. So was the events that they had back in the day? Was it kind of like what we did this year? You had music kind of going. You had the barbecue. You had, of course we didn't have racing, but they kind of combined all that. Is that correct?
I would imagine it was about the same thing. We're a little bit more modernized, but about the same thing. Yes, they had food going all over the place. They had multiple pits back then. They had one that was in the juke joint. They used to have 3 that sat in the back by the juke joint. Again, like you said, the racing around down the straight track for the drag strip, music playing inside, probably outside of the building on the pavilion that's out there with the main stage that's outside. They did a little bit of everything. So.
Wow. Well, you certainly, the first part of your, the given the history, how many times have you told that throughout your life, Steve?
It's been a few times.
Well, before we jump to, God bless you, George, what's been your biggest surprise? Because we've done 3 races, right? And then we did the Music Fest and rodeo this year. What's been the biggest takeaway from seeing the motorcycle community, come back onto the property again? You were probably you weren't around when they were having races out there, correct? You weren't. That was before your time. But what's been the biggest takeaway, since seeing all this going on?
I can't speak, like you said, I can't really speak for when they were racing before. I was very little, or I know it was before I was born and when I was little. 1, 2, 3 years old or so. But what I see with you guys, and I'm very appreciative of it, because again, when you guys first came out, we first talked, we were all strangers for the most part. I didn't know what you guys were going to do or how you were going to do it, but I believed it when I talked to you, Matt. I believed in the idea, which to me at that time it was an idea. It's something you guys have been doing for quite a while. But to me, it was a good idea of something to do. And I love the way you guys were structured, organized. You took care of everything for the most part. Even the way that you guys forged a way out there to create the tracks again, or the track out there. I mean, you guys, it's amazing watching that. And one thing that I've taken away after all these years is I just keep watching it grow. I keep watching it transform into other things. Where you guys have added, like the pit bike challenge, you've added other things over time, and it's great to watch something like that evolve.
Yeah, well,
Really
we appreciate that, and it's certainly it's a lot of work, to lay out the trail and stuff, but it's a lot of fun. I mean, people ask me all the time, why do you do all that? It's like, well, I enjoy that part. I love being out anytime I can be outside in the woods. That's great for me. I love it, and then be around other people that are, kind of buy into it and enjoy the same thing. To me, you can't get much better than that.
Watching you guys put in hundreds of hours, and I literally mean that, probably hundreds of hours to race for a couple of days, a day or two. It's amazing to watch that kind of passion and that type of discipline. It really is. And
Yeah.
You guys all come together and you work willingly. Nobody is like, no, not today, and this, that, and the other. You guys, you are out there and you guys are on it. So it's beautiful to watch that. It really is.
Yeah, we appreciate that, and it's not one man can pull it off or one woman. I mean, it's a team effort. There's a lot of tasks, a lot of roles involved. There's a lot to worry about, and a lot to be thankful for, because this area needed something like this, in my opinion, and it's been long overdue. And I just remember after we had our first hare scramble in 2016 up at Bundy Hill, I was driving by the farm, and I don't know why, but I just looked at those off-road racing signs. I think you mentioned it, Marty.
Yep.
And I was like, why can't we do something there? Why can't we? And then all of a sudden, the pieces of the puzzle started coming together. We talked to you, we talked to George, and we're going to get to George next here. But certainly, Steve, appreciate what you and your family's been able to do for us, and we keep building on it. We keep marching forward. So it's good to see the farm open again, and you're doing events. How, probably not now that it's fall, but you're doing events how often out there?
Every day. Well, 6 days a week. We're still running 6 days a week. Our larger events are always on the weekends, just like this past weekend and every weekend that we do it. But like you said, it's beautiful to see that too. Like you just said, passing by the farm, a thought turned into reality, and with the help of yourself, Marty, with George especially, and helping out and everybody that was tied into it, that turned into something that, it's just amazing to see. It helped revive part of the history of the farm, and people out there actually, those signs meaning something again, drag racing, racing. And it all came from a thought of you driving by. So thank you for that. And thank you, George. Thank you, Marty.
Yeah, I want to make mention really quick before, and we'll probably mention this a number of times throughout the podcast here. It's one thing, I've got motorcycle racing across the street from them, right down over by the airport. And you can do that because it's usually a piece of property you have, and that's it. It's very contained. It's very small. It's nothing really big. These events are so far and few in between because there is no property to do this. Who owns 1,000 acres? Who owns 200 acres even? So, because of both of you guys that allowed it, which you're probably the one percenters, anymore, nobody wants you around with a dirt bike or any other thing. They don't want you on the property, so the properties are shrinking. Of course, we're building houses every time we turn around. There's new houses, and it gets eat up a lot. So for you guys to really take a chance, that's huge, because you say there's very few people that'll even think about it, just because of all the connotation. I don't know what the words is anymore, but connotation of having injuries and tearing things up and doing all that kind of stuff. Everybody goes, whoa, I'm not interested. So like I said, you guys are both one of the one percenters, because if you go to try to put an event on anywhere, it just doesn't happen. It's just so hard. If you stop and think, where else here in this area could you do it? I don't
know anywhere.
I don't know anywhere. So
not to the level that we do it.
Right. You might be able to get a corner woods section somewhere and be able to get a half mile, 3/4 mile, maybe out of something, but they're just not there. So again, I want to thank you guys for being those one percenters that it's willing to go out there and take a sport that most people won't even think about to allow us on your property.
Yep.
So that definitely needs to be, it needs to be brought out over and over again, that, it is something that this has been done. Because like I say, I don't know where else you would do it.
No, I mean, there's, trust me, I have, as president of the club, I have spent countless hours investigating that question, and you will find that it's very, very non-existent. Or if you found somebody that had 50 acres of woods, they're probably not going to want to talk to you, talk to you, let alone, entertain the ideas. So yeah, it's very valuable. And I think if anybody takes away from this podcast tonight, any enthusiast that's into motorcycle racing or anything, it really understand that there is a value to a relationship, and there's a value to bringing something like we've done into the community. And George, I'll swing it over to you. When you first heard from Bree, your wife, and God bless her, because she probably twisted your arm a little bit to call me back. But
we know who the boss is.
Yeah, exactly.
we know who the boss is.
George is a smart guy.
Can we cut that out of the recording?
We want to put her in there.
Yeah, exactly. But what was your first thought when she kind of laid it out to you and said, "Oh, I know this guy from high school here," and call him back and talk to him?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it sounded interesting. One, I've always been somebody who's been into having gatherings, if you will, around my place, and been into doing events, whether it's, with that Sertoma club that I'm involved in, and variety of other charity events, if you will. You certainly have the thoughts of like, oh, great, knobby tired machines running through your woods, tearing stuff up, but then, flashback too, I knew that was going on down there at, the farm for years, prior to my existence, if you will. And it sounded like a neat opportunity to bring something new to the area. I don't know of, such a unique situation as far as it being right next to the Port Authority, to your point of how much land there is to access. And, it just, it felt right. And, I guess Bree said that you were a good guy back in high school. So
Used to be.
Yeah. Well, thank goodness that has, that being a good guy's, paid off.
How much did you pay her?
Yeah, exactly. Is she still getting that yearly gift certificate? But no, it's really been great. And we've talked about this, George and I, because we're about the same age, and how many people that we've been associated with and how our paths didn't cross until just 4 or 5 years ago is amazing. But no, we certainly appreciate you jumping on board too, and we almost, Marty, I don't know if you knew this, but we almost the first year got George here to buy a 125, and it was Yamaha or something you were looking at, because he was emailing us and he says, hey, what class should I run, or something like that, and we're like, well, maybe just watch the first one.
I'm glad you didn't jump over the board out and buy a Yamaha. We've got plenty of Kawasaki's and stuff like that out there in the garbage heap and Yamahas. But, the good bikes are all in the shop, So if you really want a good bike, a nice Husqvarna, a KTM, we've got them over here.
I ended up with a 4-wheeler anyway. So.
My way, really downhill. No.
Yeah.
No, but what was your takeaway, George, after the first? I mean, the first race was an absolute mutter, obviously, but kind of your years of kind of coming by and checking things out. What's been your kind of biggest takeaway from it?
Like that first year too, I mentioned something about Sertoma that I'm a part of. If you remember, we kind of hooked that in a bit. So, we had like a little breakfast type deal and, a lunch like with hot dogs, while the farm was still getting everything up and going. So we had covered that stuff that year. So it was an opportunity to get the club out there and, sort of network with another club.
Right.
I think that, it was just a nice way to meet some new people from the area.
Yep.
Again, you being from the area, Marty, a lot of the people that are in the club are from out this way. So it's, I'm a people person, so it's nice to meet fresh faces, and it seemed like a good group of people, like Steve said, you guys were putting in a ton of work and, I think doing it very responsibly, methodically. So you knew that what you guys were doing was going to go very well. You know, you just had a good feeling about it, going into that weekend.
So
other than the mud.
Yeah, other than mud. Yeah.
Well, other than that 2.5 inches of rain the night before, but
that makes memories, right? Mm-hmm. So again, I guess I'm going to come back to you again, and I'm still trying to get it in your head a little bit about why you're in the risk business. right? You're
Managing risk, right?
You're managing risk, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're in the wealth business, right? You're doing that kind of stuff. So when your wife came back and said some crazy man says we could do some dirt bike riding in our, in our backyard.
Yeah.
What, I think I'm just trying to think myself of, I'm not sure. Even today, I still would probably think twice about, okay, now this is good or bad. You know what I mean? It's
Sure.
there's a risk here.
Sure.
So what made you take the chance on the risk?
Everything's got it, risk, right? I think that it was really important. I mean, because no doubt that thought instantly crosses your mind as a landowner. And admittedly, my dad sort of said to me, he goes, well,
Are you nuts?
Yeah, how are we going to be protected here with this thing? You know what I mean?
Right.
And knowing that your club is associated with it's the AMA, the American Motorcycle Association, and you being able to get the proper insurance, if you will, to be able to cover us as the landowners in the event that something bad or catastrophic happens. Because that's what you got to remember too with something like this. Knock on wood, insurance is for catastrophic things. Right. Sure, you get some busted arms and some broken legs and things like that, but for the most part, these events have gone off really well. I've heard of very few people getting injured. Again, knock on wood. I think people are smart about protecting themselves, and you guys make sure that they are being safe.
My buddy come in from Arizona, hit a tree, dislocated his arm. Another rider put his arm back in, and he rode back out.
Yeah.
So he could, so the other his teammate could take off again. So
that was your buddy Marty, right?
Yeah, Marty out in Arizona. So he dislocated his shoulder. They put it back in. He rode back out. Yeah, the other guy jumped on. Andrew jumped on the bike and took off again. So a little injury. That's what happens, right? So, but I guess I probably forgot to ask Steve about that too. He said, I don't know. I don't know that your business is necessarily high risk. You come in, you serve some food, you make sure everybody has fun with the music and everything. What went through your mind when you said, okay, I'm going to have people out there on my property trying to do 40, 50 miles an hour through the woods and trees and all that kind of stuff? What was a turning point that you said, okay, yeah, let's do it? Or, man, I don't know. What made you minimize that risk?
Well, we have some risks here and there. Nothing like what George deals with or how he would think about it. But honestly, it was having the trust in Matt and everybody else that everything would be okay. So we really didn't, or at least for myself, really didn't think about any types of risks until that 2.5 inches of rain came like the night before the first time we did it. And, I saw how muddy and how crazy it was out there. And I believe it was right as they started that first event, and it clicked in my head, these guys could get hurt. Oh my goodness. And I had my own silent panic, small anxiety attack. I disappeared for 20, 30 minutes. I think I was in one of the porta-johns or something. No, I don't know. But other than that, I was fine. It was totally fine. That's one of those things where you just put the trust in the rest of the guys, that you've seen what they've been doing. You've listened to what they've said. You know that they've got this and they understand what's going on here, because I didn't come from anything racing. I didn't understand really what was going on to an extent. Having the overall gist of it versus actually seeing it and watching it, two different things. So that was my stand on it. I really didn't think about the risk as much until I started. It was the same day that they were racing, and I'm like, wow, this is kind of dangerous. This is something that I probably wouldn't do.
Keep that quiet. I don't want my wife to hear that.
So yeah, that's where I was. That was my take.
Well, I think one of the things too is the type of racing we're doing, the hare scramble size life, and some of the playing around, the open rides and stuff. It's a total different. I'm involved in the other side where as soon as they hit the track, it's risk. Now they're jumping 30
the motocross.
Yeah, the motocross side of life. So, the neat thing is that you did get into, into a sport that, not that you can't hit a tree, because I've hit plenty of them, but, it is a little slower speed. The riders are usually a lot more qualified, I guess you want to say. It's just not the average guy jumping on a bike and go out and ride around and try to jump through the air. So it was, that's one thing it was a good thing to get your, hitch on. And I see a lot of times people look at my business and say, wow, are you sure you let other people do it? And I'm like, I don't know, but that's the nice thing about having the hare scrambles, different type of people, different type of racing, still risk, but again, thank you. I just, to have that mindset, and I think business people too, probably versus just landowners. You guys, like you said, you have risk in your business, he has risk in his business. So, you already have got, like he said, you've already got risk. You just have to, minimize it, manage it, do whatever. So again, thank you very much.
Well, I think the other point as well is talking about the local community. I think you talked a little bit about it, George, but so every single time, actually, I think one of the first meetings we had was down at Charlie's. I don't know if you guys remember that, Charlie's restaurant, right down. You could throw a paper airplane from the farm there and hit Charlie's at the corner of 20A and Airport Highway. And I don't know how many times we've met down there before coming out to the farm to lay out the trail. And it's funny because the waitresses know, the Toledo Trail Riders are here. It's the dirt bike guys showing back up, and we go in there, we spend money, and they like that. We just did that this year, myself and my dad and Radar. We took a break from doing some things there the Thursday before the rodeo and went down there and had some lunch. And I think that's important. And then you got to think about the other thing. You have 230 racers plus another probably 250 spectators coming in, and they're spending money. They were camping across the road. They were buying food from you, Steve, and going down to the gas stations. You cannot emphasize that enough about bringing money back into the community is huge. And I think that's often a misunderstood with people that are kind of against our sport. They don't understand how effective that is because you guys have seen that over at MX Express, right?
Yeah, and we believe it runs probably pretty close, anywhere from 2.4 to 3 spectators per rider. So when you look at that, you're talking, 200 riders, 300 riders, you're talking, almost 900 people there. Like I said, and it's so funny because, I'm always driving by the gas station where I see a bike, I look at my bike and you do that. You see race day, you see them down here at Circle or at, Speedway or the gas station getting ice and getting, some more fuel or whatever. You look at that and thinking, wow, and I'm surprised that the Port Authority that we ride on, I'm surprised they haven't been down here trying to calculate the impact because they're really good about that. Anything that happens around the airport, they usually are figuring out the impact of the area. But it would be interesting probably for even us to have somebody, just one body, go through and check license plates out. Because I can tell you, I've been through and seen Indiana, I've seen Michigan, who was come up from Kentucky. I was trying to think who the young guy, but they come up from Kentucky because they rode at our track. It's we're doing, we come up for the week and we're gonna do this and we're gonna do the hare scrambles, So Kentucky, that's a long way.
That's a long way.
So they had to stay either with a friend or they had to stay at a hotel, So, but yeah, it'd be interesting just to pull that, just sort of survey it next, because I think as it grows, the same thing. As it grows and grows, they're gonna see definitely more and more. If we can get around that, did I see something about some circle thingamabob down at the end of the road?
They put a roundabout there. Actually, it'll be opened up by this coming up week. So
next year we'll have to put somebody down there so they don't get caught in the circle. We'll have to get them pointed down your way.
Correct. Yep.
Well, cool.
Well, flipping back to George real quick. George, what you talk about risk and insurance? What is it you do every day for a living?
Well, on most given days, it's MPM Wealth Advisors is where I'm employed, family-owned company that, we, to your point, manage risk, whether it be, the market risk, people's retirement portfolios, 401ks, IRAs, things like that, as well as, doing various insurance types, so again, managing risk, life insurance, long-term care, stuff like that. But, overall financial planning for families, multi-generational families, it seems to be becoming, as I'm the second generation in the family, and then there's another gal who's also the second generation in the business. So
Because your dad started it with a partner, right?
Yep.
Yep.
So her dad and my dad set out in 1995 and founded Modern Portfolio Management, that it was back then. Changed the name somewhere along the way. I think it was around 2008 to MPM Wealth Advisors, as it is now. So been in business for coming up on 25 years now.
Wow.
Been a pretty interesting run.
And you've worked there your whole life then?
Outside of the college jobs, if you will. Graduated in 2008 from Bowling Green, and had started studying for insurance testing and the different licenses that you have to get earlier in that spring. So outside of working in a warehouse throughout college, yeah.
Well, I think you've definitely become a great advisor per the club, because here's a good example about the friendship we've developed with George. So I called him the other day and said, hey, we're looking to get some insurance for the club, this kind of thing. He's not able to do it because of the product and services they offer through licensing, but he pointed the club in the right direction, and it worked out. And sometimes I think that's the connection with people that you gotta focus on building. And it may not be what you can do, but it may be, somebody,
right,
and point them in the right way.
Yeah,
so
I think that has a lot to do with it. You look today's Sunday, football wise. Oh, sorry, I need to get it up to the face.
Yeah.
Football wise, the teams have a head coach, in a sense. So there's a lot of times where you are coordinating the efforts of these various advisors, trying to get people pointed in the right direction to manage said risks.
Right. Right.
He must like you better, because I only have one question for you.
Just one.
What's the next Amazon?
Oh, geez.
Oh man, I've got a few bucks here. Just a few. I got like $23.
Yeah.
So can you point me towards the next Amazon?
I'll tell you, since our last conversation, it's been interesting to be looking at all that data surrounding, what we call the FANGs now, the Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, and Google. And it is just crazy, the amount of growth in some of those companies. And sort of the perfect storm. Obviously you guys had to deal with the coronavirus as well with the race this year. And I know with the various races that you've done at the tracks, but just like with the market, and certain things do really well under stress. I know that like out there at Delta, there was huge races out there this summer.
Yeah.
Amazing to see the turnout for a place that was averaging 120 people on Friday nights before.
About 50.
Yeah.
And it's sort of the same with some of these companies, like you're talking about. What's the next Amazon? Lord only knows. One, but two, it's been interesting to watch some of that stuff, and just this year in general.
That was a great answer.
you know.
But he never really answered the question. Did you hear an answer, Steve? I never heard him say, go buy XYZ company. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
And I will be a millionaire tomorrow. But he didn't tell me that. Wow.
What is, Steve, speaking of COVID, because honestly, that's the reason why Marty and I started this podcast, because, quite frankly, I think we were kind of looking for something to do. We were kind of bored. I mean, really.
The wise one is out of the house.
Yeah, exactly. You guys are going stir crazy. Go out, get out, go do something. But Steve, how did you manage through the COVID situation? Because you said you're open 5-6 days a week. Has that affected you greatly? Did you have to modify a whole lot of things that you're doing?
And he's probably, out of all of Betty around, he's probably the worst hit of anything out there. Right.
So how have you dealt with it?
Well, traditionally, the bars and the restaurants, as everybody knows, were probably the worst, affected business-wise with this whole move and things with COVID. But one of the uniquenesses of the farm is that we have a lot of acreage for people to spread out over, and we did a lot of our shows outside. So we have a 10,800 square foot pavilion that's in the back of that building with a stage outside, and the rules are slightly different outside versus inside, so we were able to make people feel a little bit more comfortable by being outside and being able to spread out. So actually, where a lot of businesses folded or they started to fail, we thrived. We took on a lot of new ventures, a lot of new things this year for ourselves personally that we might not have had the opportunity to take on if it was not COVID season. We still, right now, we moved back to the inside until we have a plan where we're going to be moving back outside by the end of November. That's a whole nother story. But even with our business inside, we're still able to survive through this whole COVID thing. like they said, even being on the inside, people having to wear masks and do all the mandatories. Whereas when they were outside, they had to just socially distance, stay 6 feet apart. They didn't have to worry necessarily about wearing the masks because they had so much room and places to be able to spread out, stay away from everyone else while still being able to enjoy themselves, have a good time, listen to music, drink, and do all those things too. So, I mean, it's actually, I know it's been rough for a lot of businesses out there, but for us personally and the uniqueness of the farm, it's actually helped our business probably more than it's hurt us.
That's going to be my next question. Have you found ways to do it better because of having to sort of rethink and second guess stuff? And have you found that you're able to maybe do some stuff that was a little bit better than you did before because you have to figure out how to do things?
Well, I think it's doing a little bit better. It's hard for me to gauge that because we just restarted up just over a year ago. So there's not much for us to go off of from before the previous history, because the previous history always was 1 to 2 times a month versus I had this wild idea, let's do this almost every day. And we've actually only been doing that on the everyday portion since after May 17th, after restaurants and bars were allowed to open back up again. And I decided to let's go to 5 days, and then probably about 2 months ago or so, 2 months ago, let's go 6 days. And that's what we've been doing. We've been finding success in that, in doing that, and operating that way, at least currently. I mean, down the road, obviously, we'll see what happens. I'm not risk management. I don't know those kind of things. I probably have to refer over to George. He'd probably tell me I need to stop now. But then again, I'm a little off, so I probably wouldn't listen to George, and he would be great later on, and I wouldn't stop. And we know what would happen there. But I think, at least honestly though, right now, the way things are going, it's helping our business more than it's hurting us. And we're able to keep the doors open. We're able to make people happy. We're able to do things. We're able to take on new ventures. We're learning new things while we're doing it. We've picked up so many different accounts of things that people wanted to have elsewhere that they couldn't or other places wouldn't, and we would allow it. We could do it safely. We've checked with the health department, all the the people and the powers that be to be able to do those things, each one of them individually, and we pulled them all off. We pulled them all off successfully. We're not sourced as a COVID-19 location or anything like that. We take all precautions. We take that seriously. I especially take that seriously with the business and how we actually operate with that building, how we clean, sanitize, and do everything. So, I mean, for right now, like when you were saying that, Marty, for right now, it seems to be beneficial. It seems to be working out in our favor.
Well, you've been lucky because I know a lot of restaurants were trying to get streets shut down so they could have outside eating areas and that kind of stuff. So, like you said, with the farm, you had the space in the room to spread out.
And the farm has it built in for that outside activity. It was already there. At first I was worried because I said, "Oh my goodness, what are we going to do? We don't do to-go food and all the other things that have happened in the past." And then when they allowed people to open back up, and people were searching for that outdoor area and space, it's like, wait a minute, we have that. It's already there. And so, between promoting those things to the public and reminding people and letting them know what we had to offer, it's helped us out tremendously. It really has.
How about you, George?
Yeah, I was going to say, what about George? Well, how have you modified your daily business?
Other than staying at home all the time instead of going to the office?
Yeah, I was going to say daily-wise. I mean, I built an office at home, so I've been working out of the house, most days of the week since early March. It was weird over the summer. I mean, there's no doubt that, when you're meeting with people about their finances and whatnot, traditionally, a lot of these folks are in their mid-60s, 70s, et cetera. They want to meet face-to-face. They want to come into a conference room and, they know that they have to be a little bit more cautious. And we have to have that responsibility, too, to be a little bit more cautious. Mm-hmm. It was, I can't say, it was slower than I guess what normally would have been. But, in the last 2 months as sort of things have been opening back up, we've been having a lot more visitors into the office. Again, still taking the precautions and, sort of leaving it up to people, to what extent they want to be cautious, Mm-hmm. But, it's been a good year overall. The elections made things interesting, as you can imagine in the last few months.
Not done yet.
Right.
2 days to go.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank goodness. So. Well, it's always interesting how you have to. I mean, nobody could, in their right mind, could think all this stuff through. plan ahead. We've done some planning, somewhat for different disasters because the government, being in healthcare, they kind of force you to kind of think things through. But I tell you, through all this virus stuff, I'm starting to actually enjoy being corona tested at work. I kind of like it. It's just becoming my norm per week.
Yeah,
twice a week you get tested, and
you're just looking for that interaction.
Yeah,
You wanna say
I could
hi
take
to
my
them.
mask off for 20 seconds, and
Well, speaking of masks, this last weekend was rather chilly. With the correct mask, it was very nice. I'm going to tell you right now, my cheeks
They do have benefits.
my cheeks were never so warm. I had that mask on. The only thing is, I think I have to come up with a new design where I have a mask and earmuffs because my ears got a little cold. But those masks were very good this last couple of days, especially with it snowing.
And yesterday was just for the audience. Today is the 1st of November, and just saw some snow here this afternoon on a snowy.
It was lovely, wasn't it?
It's like, what happened in October? But you're wrapped up, Marty, at the track at Delta, right?
Yep, Delta is done. Yesterday was the last race for our series and for us being at the Delta track, and look forward to seeing what's going to be new and improved out there for next year. They were out there last week. We've had to dodge dump trucks and people working out there because they were actually working on some stuff out there to get some dirt in and get some stuff in so they can get on ahead of the game. So. Yeah, we may stay open another week or so for out here because I think this week's supposed to be in the 60s and 70s. I think
Going camping again.
I think Saturday 69 and Sunday 70.
Perfect.
With like a minuscule chance of rain. So I'm thinking, man, a couple more days of riding would be always a good thing. I haven't really ridden much, so I'm looking maybe go out and ride around a little bit. So.
Nice. Why I met with Mr. Schlegel, Paul Schlegel, this past week. We got him in the studio for the documentary film that we're doing. And actually, Steve, he mentioned Sonny Lewis was his name, or Sonny. I'm sorry, Sonny
Hines.
Sonny Hines, not Sonny Lewis. But he had Paul Schlegel, because the races they had back in the '60s, he had went and talked to Sonny about. About doing some things out there in the flat tracks. And, so that was kind of cool. So hopefully that'll make it into the film. It was kind of cool to hear that. And he talked about Hines Farm, and he took, I don't want to ruin it, but his wife, their first or second date was at Hines Farm back in the early 1960s. Took her to a motorcycle race, their first date.
There you go.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Nothing says love like two-stroke, huh?
No,
That's right.
No,
That's
you
right.
get a little sniff of the race fuel. There's nothing better than that. Yeah. I mean,
It was tough working Friday, knowing that the last race was coming up. Every year it's the same way. Season's over with, but I was doing something, and one of the young kids were out there running around their dirt bike, and they went by, and I got a whiff of that gas. Like, okay, I'm ready to go again. It was like racing fuel.
Oh yeah, no question. But any parting thoughts, Steve, from you as we kind of wrap up today?
Well, I look forward to any future endeavors that we're all able to work on together. Glad we all were able to come together and do this. Not only the podcast, but to be doing this year after year. Maintain stability, maintain friendship, working together as separate business owners and landowners and all of that, and putting everything together, not only for ourselves, but for the community. Again, I thank you guys for helping to breathe a little bit of life and help resurrect, being a part of resurrecting the farm. That's pretty much it for me. I'm just appreciative all the way around for everybody's help and the guidance for especially areas and things that you guys do that you guys are experts on that I have no clue in, but you've guided us through safely and well. So thank you for that from everybody.
We appreciate that. And Steve, just for the audience, how would they get in touch with you? Because there may be some musicians and stuff. Because you're not just having blues bands out there. You have a whole variety going out there now at Griffin Hines Farm. So how does somebody get a hold of you, or you have a website?
Well, we do pretty much anything and everything as far as music now. It's not, like you just said, it's not just a blues club anymore. To get a hold of me, they can either email me direct, Steve at griffinhinesfarm.com. They can go to the website, griffinhinesfarm.com. We have our Facebook page, Instagram, Twitter. They all tie to either Griffin Hines Farm or GHF, GHF Blues, anything of that nature. They can reach me direct to 419-320-0216 and just ask for Steve. That's me. And I will be more than happy to help or assist in any way that we can.
Great. We appreciate that. George, any parting thoughts for you? Anything?
No, I just, I think you said it well, Steve, look forward to the future events and whatnot. A year will blow by just as quickly as any other year, so it'll be here before we know it. Do the rain dance, as many days as you can here between now and then, and hopefully we get just a little bit the week of. But no, I mean, again, like I said, just look forward to doing it. Looking forward to seeing a bigger crowd out there here this year, and just having another good event. It's been.
So, what's the phone number I can get a hold of you to get that answer on my
911
or 411?
Yeah, 411. Yeah. No, 419-861-1400. Or mpmwealth.com. We can be found and located on the World Wide Web.
Cool. I'll call you probably a little later on.
Yeah. Just maybe I'll have that answer for you.
I'll get in there. I want to get in there and research it. Whatever you tell me.
Sure.
I wanna do that.
Sure.
We'll certainly appreciate you guys both being on, and let's get through 2020 and put it behind us, because this is my new slogan now. More fun in 21. How about that? More fun in 21.
Wow, hey, Steve, we're sorry you weren't here with us, but I'm more sorry that we weren't doing this podcast at the farm.
Yeah.
I was looking forward to see how that was going to turn out at the farm. So maybe again, we can come out and hang out and just chat for we'll do a collage of maybe like 10-minute interviews. We'll come at the farm or something and hang out and do a little real quick filming and get a little pictures of the inside.
That would be great. Thank you guys. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much. And Marty, thanks for having us out here at the studio. And we appreciate you listening to the Toledo Track and Trail podcast. And up next, we got some volunteers from the Delta Raceway gang, and look forward to talking to them. So we appreciate the audience. Please look us up on Facebook, also on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe. Until next time, please enjoy the track and trail that you're riding on, and please be good stewards of the trail or track that you are participating on. And any parting thoughts, Marty?
Thank you guys again for doing what you guys do.
Yep, appreciate it very much. Good night, everybody.